Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sam, and this week we're going to be doing a reading vlog. I'm very excited about this reading vlog. I'm going to be reading a bunch of new summer releases. Now, at this point, some of these releases are definitely not new. I have been at the mercy of my library and the various holds that I have put on to acquire these books. But nonetheless, I am very excited to read all of these. I'm hoping to read 4 books in this video. So fingers crossed the people of my community will return their books so that I can have my turn and I can get this up to you before the end of summer. So the first book that we're going to start this reading vlog off with is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. This is the author of The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip. I feel like more people like The 7-Year Slip, but I think I'm in the Dead Romantics club. I thought that was phenomenal, very different to anything I had ever read before. And I don't know too much about this one. All I know is that our main female character gets somehow wakes up in her favorite romance book or something, like the small town of her famous romance book series, which I think is just going to be so cute. I love the magical realism that Ashley Poston includes in her books. I think it's really fun and just adds a little twist. I feel like I've seen kind of mixed reviews. I feel like most people have been giving this like a middle of the road rating, but I know somebody that I watched really liked this book. Rachel Catherine, I think. So hopefully I am also a big fan of this. I'm really excited to start this one later today. Okay, I'm about halfway through this book now and I'm having a great time. This small town is so cute, and I don't know how else to explain it other than this book feels like magic. We're following our main character, Eileen, who is going through a rough patch. She was trying to get to this cabin to spend a week with her book club, and she stumbles across this town from her favorite romance series, and just getting her to see these characters that she has such a love and appreciation for. Like this was written for the readers. Like this is written for the readers who get so obsessed with these books and characters and stories that it's a dream to be able to fall into these settings and stories. And you can feel that magic in this book. Like I have been smiling and giggling this whole time. The banter, the tension, it feels like a warm hug. Like even though I haven't read the book series that this main character has fallen into, and not that it's a real book series at all, but I feel like I have. Like I feel like I also know this book series because it's such like a universal experience for many people on Bookstagram and Booktube and everything. So I'm having a great time. Also, I think I'm reading this at the perfect time because some of the messaging in this book is really resonating, and I just hope that the second half is just as good as it has been because I'm having a great time. Okay, I have a little check-in. I ended up finishing a novel love story by Ashley Poston on the weekend, and I loved it. This was 5 stars to me. This book was amazing. If you need a sign to pick up a book that you have been putting off because of not the best reviews, but it's something that you're interested in, pick it up because you might end up absolutely falling in love with a book that not a lot of people like. I can't exactly remember what I said at my last check-in, but this book felt like pure magic. This was made for the book girlies, the people who found books in a time that they needed them and pulled them out of these difficult moments that they go back to over and over again to read their favorite quotes, be back with their favorite characters, and just have comfort in these stories. I think this was beautifully written. I absolutely love the small town and the way that it was written. I think it was very well done. We got to learn about our main character, Eileen, what she's going through, what her life is like and her experiences, as well as learning about her favorite book series, which is that not the best thing to talk about your friends and hear about their favorite book series and why they love those books so much. So you definitely get that in this. I do wish we got a little bit more about the book series that is in this book, or just that I could read it, because it sounded like the cutest small town book series with the cutest characters and like emotional depth and everything. The only way I can describe this is pure magic. The feelings that I got when I was reading this, I was giddy and happy, excited and giggling and smiling the whole way through. Absolutely loved it. A novel love story. This was my 5-star by Ashley Poston. All of her other books, her other 2 books, I think were 4 and 4.5 stars. I definitely need to keep a closer eye on Ashley Poston and her releases so that I can pick them up pretty much immediately, because she's definitely become one of my favorite authors. So after I finished that book, I picked up The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This is their newest release, and I had zero idea of what this book was about when I picked it up. Now, to be fair, I go into most of my books pretty blind. I don't really like to have any idea of what the book is going to be about, but I usually have some idea of minimal plot or the premise or some sort of tropes that are included, or with a cover sometimes you can get some context clues and stuff. This one, no idea. I thought it was going to be some like vacation-y read, something like that. And I guess in this book, we are following Anna and Liam, who kind of found themselves this marriage of convenience situation when they needed to get housing for their degree. Apparently, this one housing block had pretty affordable rent, but the only way that you could be able to live there is if you were married. So they got married just for the housing, didn't really know anything about each other, were strictly roommates, didn't have any sort of relationship with each other. And when they graduated, they divorced and went their separate ways. But a few years later, they find themselves in a situation that throws them back together. They have to take a vacation together. It just has all the best tropes in it. I'm not going to necessarily list them all. I think it's a lot of fun to go in this blind. I wasn't really vibing with this at the very beginning of the book. I didn't love Anna. She didn't seem like she had any, I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it. I just didn't love some of her characteristics. And I think that's just because that's not the type of person that I am. I find that we're fairly different, and that's okay. But as I got into it a little bit more and got the more of the main plot that we're following, I am enjoying it a lot more. It's really very much a silly, goofy time. Like, the plot itself is pretty ridiculous and definitely would not happen in real life, but I'm having a lot of fun and I'm excited to continue. I have just over half of the book left. I would really like to finish this today because I have to switch out and pick up the 2 other books that I have for this reading vlog. And so I would love to be able to just make one trip to the library to switch these books out and pick up the other 2 and not have to hold on to this one for any longer. So I'm gonna go and get reading in hopes that I can get this finished today. Well, I was able to finish this book today. This was so good. Also, please excuse my voice. My allergies are driving me crazy, and for some reason, my only symptom is a cough. I've been drowning myself in water trying to rehydrate. So bear with me. I ended up finishing The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren today, and I loved this book. I think I'm gonna end up giving it 4.5 stars. This was a silly, goofy time, total like ridiculous situation, but very fun, very well done. Characters that have depth. Plot is also well fleshed out with layers. And although it's very much a silly, goofy time, very much just a fictional, cute rom-com, this book touches on very important and, I don't want to say popular, but a common topic of discussion as of late in terms of like socioeconomic classes and stuff. I think this was really well done. Obviously, I went into this book with zero expectations, zero knowledge on what this book was about, and I was pleasantly surprised. I love the characters, I love their romance. You could tell that they really cared about each other and you could feel their chemistry. This didn't quite give me the 5-star feeling, and there's also some things that I just didn't love. Like some plot points came up sort of out of nowhere, and I wish that there was a little bit more explanation in those cases. But like I said, overall, I loved it. There's one thing that really bothered me in this book and bothers me in any books that this takes place in, and that's either when characters use other words in place of swear words. If you're gonna swear, just swear. Don't make something else up. And naming body parts other words, if you know what I mean. In this one specifically, Liam's, she always calls it his goddamn, and it just really grinded my gears every time that I read it. Just say it. Just say something else, anything else. I'll take one of the cringy descriptions that is in most smutty erotic novels over what was in here. Nonetheless, this was still great. 4.5 stars, I think. Very interesting, like different sort of story, and had a great time. Hi everybody, it's been a few days, so I wanted to do a check-in. I started reading Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood on Thursday, and then just didn't pick this up for a couple days. So I'm just over halfway through now, and I don't really know how to collect my thoughts with this book. I'm definitely enjoying it. I like the plot. I think that it's really interesting. In this book, we're following Rue, who has a very strict, like, no repeat rule to hooking up with guys. And she ends up meeting Eli, and they kind of have their one night, which doesn't necessarily go as planned. And the next day, it turns out his company is trying to take over the company that she works for. So sort of that corporate situation is really interesting to read about. I feel like there's definitely points that are being hinted at, but we aren't getting any information yet because it'll come into play later. But the way that those pieces of information are handled, I feel like, because I don't have an understanding of how the business world really works, I'm struggling to follow at times. And also Rue's view and standpoint of relationships, I guess just the things that she's into, is not similar to myself. So finding it hard to connect to the characters a little bit, but I love their connection and the banter is great. It's just a lot of fun. They just kind of keep running into each other. I'm really hoping that I can finish this today so we can still read one more book. Hopefully my thoughts will be more cohesive at the end and we can have a proper discussion. We have some catching up to do. Somehow the end of my reading vlogs are always derailed. I don't know what keeps happening. One of these days a reading vlog will go as planned, but today is not that day. So since I last spoke to you, I finished Not in Love, and I think I'm settling on like a 3.5 for this one. Unfortunately, I was a little bit let down with this one. I found the plot to be interesting, but because it wasn't explained at all, because Rue didn't have any idea what was going on with the purchase of the company that she worked for, we were also in the dark of what was actually going on. I mean, like, as the book went on, you kind of had your suspicions, but sort of the conflict that surrounded that in the like third act, end of book conflict resolution situation, it didn't live up for me. I really don't know how to explain my opinions on this book. I thought the premise was really, really interesting and something that obviously I had never read before. I feel like it's a pretty unique topic in at least the romance world, but it just, I wanted there to be more of it. Like, it really wasn't explained well, so that was disappointing. And then I did really enjoy their relationship. I felt like Eli and Rue's connection, like, you could feel it coming off the page, but The spice didn't do it for me. Their choices didn't make a lot of sense to me. We were kind of just like some of the explanations for the way that people were didn't really make sense. Like it answered some questions, but it didn't feel enough of a reason. I don't know. Unfortunately, this was not my favorite Elia Hazelwood book. Yeah, Love Theoretically is definitely still my favorite. Then, as you saw in the last clip, I read This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This is probably my most anticipated read of the year. And I think that this is a solid like 4 stars for me. I did have some issues with this book, especially the later I got into it. I think okay, before I get ahead of myself, in this book, we're following Lucy, who is best friends with Bridget, and they go to Bridget's home like fairly annually in PEI. So this is a dual timeline. We get the current plot of Lucy, who is meeting up with Bridget in PEI before Bridget's wedding because she's totally freaking out, but Lucy doesn't know why. As well as the past timeline of the past 5 years that Lucy has been friends with Bridget and has been going to PEI. And on Lucy's first trip to PEI, she meets this guy who ends up being Bridget's brother. And one of Bridget's rules for their first trip to PEI is that Lucy can't fall in love with her brother. I really don't understand that trope. It is explained why Bridget doesn't want that in this book specifically. So her motives make sense a little bit, but I feel like in this book specifically, like Bridget has to grow as well because of her past experiences and what happened. But also the act of like denying your feelings for someone because it's your best friend's brother or it's your sister's best friend, whatever, is just really infuriating. And it was a lot of that, a lot of like, oh, I can't do this because it's wrong and I'm going behind Bridget's back, and just talk to her. Just have a conversation. So unfortunately, this book was not as great as I expected and hoped, but I did definitely enjoy it. It just, like the romance, especially nearing the end, made me love, which was fun. I love when a book does that, just makes you like your heart happy. And I haven't been out to PEI or the East Coast yet, but I definitely want to. So getting that setting was a lot of fun, and the like history and social experiences of people who live on PEI was a lot of fun. And just that being able to go and do things that make you happy, just being with friends and that sort of thing. I really like that messaging. The underlying plot and the, oh, I can't be together because we have rules, just does not do it for me personally, but I did really enjoy this. And I had a great reading couple of weeks. This was supposed to only be like just over a week, but that's just not take place. That just did not happen that way, but I had so much fun reading new releases fairly soon after they came out. We got 1 5-star, 2 4-stars, and 1 3.5, so not too bad. Definitely enjoyed my reading experience reading all of these books. Let me know down below if you have read any of these books yourself, what you thought. I would love to chat with you. I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.